So if I want to compare the updates right now to what we've been following thus far, to me, it's his lawyers lawyering. They're putting up a good fight. What else do we expect from the Drew Finlands and the high-priced lawyers of the world? Um, I'm not gonna say that that they're coming with bullshit. I think the stuff that they're coming with is very, very logical. You got to look at it like motive and real legal defenses, how it's actually going to play out in trial versus the type of shit that we feel from the outside looking in outside the court. What do I mean by that? When we look at this shit from the outside looking in, has nothing to do with legalities. We see like, Durk, you kind of look cooked. Durk, you kind of look like you did this shit. Durk, you kind of snitched on yourself in 50 different songs. Durk, you up here doing interviews with academics and whatnot, talking about you hear that Sly Vaughn shit anymore, huh? We different in the rack, like all this shit. Like we look at it like, come on, so then you want to tell me you innocent, like whatever. Um, but when you talk about in court though, like is it real? Is it really easy to come and say, I believe he's guilty because he did this song named Beverly Hills and there was an ad lib of Quando Rondo screaming in there or whatever? Like, what's the link to the actual shooting though? The art of it is the art of it, but as far as past the reasonable doubt factor, I don't know. And that's why I think it's going around the internet right now that Little Durk caught a W. So here's the W that people are talking about. All right, let's go on the small screen and let's start looking through the actual paperwork of this motion. All right. Let me scroll down past the intro. All right, let's start here. The government, and this is from his lawyers, okay? And I believe he's got a follow up trial date, November 18th, 7 days from now, based on this motion that his lawyer submitted yesterday. The government hopes that the court will disregard the necessary individualized assessment of each piece of evidence and admit to Rule 404B evidence in bulk as intrinsic evidence. Additionally, disregarding the safeguards of Rule 403, the court should reject invitation. All right, legal standard. We don't want that. I want the actual evidence pieces. Here we go. Let's go to this section now. The government's proposed other act evidence should be excluded. Evidence of defendant Banks' alleged rivalry with TB. We know who TB is, right? Isn't that Quando Rondo? I mean, it was his cousin that ended up dying in that truck. But allegedly the hit was for Quando Rondo, right? And his cousin Lil Pop just happened to be in the car with him, and is the one that got hit and passed away. The government misunderstands Mr. Banks' argument that most of the government's proposed evidence does not properly fall within the purview of Rule 404B. That is not because the evidence is intrinsic, it's because the evidence is not an other act. The act that the government seeks to admit to show Mr. Banks' motive is an act someone else committed, specifically Timothy Leaks, who shot and killed Mr. Bennett on November 6, 2020, outside a hookah lounge in Atlanta. So that's a big separation. That's why I introed the video like that, saying there's a difference between what we see. Removal of the courts is like, come on, logical opinions, common sense factor, versus the legal you have to prove with evidence and witnesses and whatnot and beyond reasonable doubt. And they're saying this whole narrative of the slide for Vaughn, that's where they put Mr. Bennett. That's King Von's last name. His name was what? Davon Bennett, right? And saying this whole narrative specifically of related to somebody else that was there involved in this whole shooting. You guys have the video. Actually, the man that got arrested for the shooting, Timothy Leaks, he was even set free from self-defense. King Von was out there in Atlanta, and it's saying Lil Durk wasn't even in Atlanta at this time. So this whole narrative of trying to say that this situation is all tied to this guy over here, we're saying prove it. Common sense factor versus reasonable doubt is a big thing outside of courts, what we believe versus inside them courts. So that's what his lawyers are going after right there, of course. Let's continue. Mr. Banks was not there or even in the state of Georgia at the time. So there was no act that Mr. Banks committed for the government that the use as motive-related evidence. So do y'all believe that that is a strong it sounds like a stupid question, right? Do y'all believe The shooting of King Von by Lil Tim in relation to the fight and the beef with Quando Rondo, etc., and even if you bring in NBA YoungBoy and that whole side, do you believe that that is a real motive from a legal standpoint for Lil Durk? Many people say yes. His lawyer right now is trying to prove no. All right. Mr. Leaks killed Mr. Bennett after Bennett and TB were involved in a physical altercation, or that Bennett was killed at all. But even Mr. Bennett's death bears little meaningful relevance to this case. Okay. Mr. Banks is not alleged to have ordered violence against Mr. Leaks. I never heard that before. That's true. We all think that King Vaughn was just being King Vaughn that night, allegedly. The fact that Mr. Leaks killed Mr. Bennett in 2020 does not bear Mr. Banks' purported motive in this case, where Mr. Leaks is not a victim. Okay. Additionally, the government seeks to admit evidence of public pressure on Mr. Banks to slide for Vaughn or avenge the killing of Mr. Bennett. Vaughn. It's so crazy to read the actual government's motive in the paperwork, in in the motions of slide for Vaughn. It's so crazy what social media creates, man. It goes right into you motherfuckers superseding and initial indictments. It really does. But the pressure to seek revenge for Bennett's death does not show motive in this cause. I'm sorry, in this case, because Mr. Banks is not charged with seeking violence against Mr. Bennett's killer. That's true. That's not the charge here, right? He's not in court for that. See, that damn near makes me feel like you're pulling the whole like Diddy case. I know we're looking at this hotel footage, but he's not facing no charges for assault or domestic violence, right? We talk about prostitution and RICO and all that stuff. I get it from a legal standpoint. That's what I'm trying to do with this paperwork today and all these new headlines for Lil Durk. I'm trying to separate my logical brain of looking at Lil Durk and his peoples and the whole narrative and everything we watched play out over the years and all the beef. And I'm trying to separate my mind from going there and look at it from what the government needs to prove in this case from a legal standpoint. Okay. May 2021 shooting incident at Blackshear, Georgia. The government suggests that May 2021 shooting incident in Blackshear, Georgia, where TB was present, perpetrated by persons unknown, is intertwined with all charges in this case, but also direct evidence of the stalking charge. Is that the shooting at the gas station after like Quando Rondo left a club or something like that? Is that particular scenario, May 2021? Once again, we heard literally, all bullshit aside, we heard little Durk reference it indirectly in subs in his music. Court-wise, though, where's the evidence? Where's the evidence? I have yet to see it. The government omits the fact that there is no evidence which shows Mr. Banks or any other co-defendant in this case was involved in the shooting, save for the shaky narrative of one cooperating witness who was facing a potential life sentence. There you go, trying to kill the motivation for a cooperating witness to speak against Durk. They've been dealing with this snitch or snitches for the last month plus, even in their motions to try to get the information on who the snitches are, get them identified prior to trial, right? Because you do have the ability to face your trial. I mean, your accusers, but we read that law that protects their identities prior to trial, and they were trying to get their hands on that information early. But here we go again, talking about the snitches, right? And you try to strip their credibility, saying like, "Oh, a snitch is going to tell you anything because they're fighting a life sentence themselves." Could be true, could be false, but it's what I expect the lawyer to say, right? Okay. Moreover, in 2021, the 2021 shooting cannot reasonably be taken as inextricably intertwined with the alleged stalking and shooting that occurred on August 19, 2022 in Los Angeles, as the facts, people, and context are entirely dissimilar. Okay. The government cites to United States, that's a reference there, to suggest that prior unsuccessful attempts to kill TB at Mr. Banks' supposed request explain the nature of the conspiratorial relationship and contours of the alleged murder plot in this case, Government Opposition 10, where the defendant was charged with arson. So that's a reference pretty much. that they already handed over, and pretty much saying that it aligns similar to what Durk is being charged with. Okay. Specifically, the cooperator's testimony regarding the two previous attempts explained why the fire was started in a unique way to avoid fire suppression systems. This is all the reference, people. And with a key given to him by the defendant. All right, he's angling. He's angling. The facts of the 2021 shooting incident at Blackshear, where TB was present, are as follows. A group of men allegedly shot at TB at a gas station in Georgia. There you go. I did have it right. Okay. The investigation into the shooting was conducted by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, and they were unable to identify any suspects. PW2 is the only source of information. PW2, is that private witness? Private witness 2? Okay. Private witness 2, I'm going to say it like that then, is the only source of information for the government regarding any context or participants in this shooting. Further, even PW2's statements are vague regarding the participants in this act. He named only 2 individuals, only one of whom could arguably have had any affiliation with OTF or Mr. Banks, and some whom PW2 did not even know and could not identify. No other defendants in this case were alleged to be involved. The other similar between the two acts is that the allegedly occurred at a gas station, and TB was present. The 2021 Blackshear shooting incident bears no unique resemblance to and has no meaningful impact on 2022 shooting of SR in Los Angeles. They are entirely unrelated. I haven't seen any evidence, at least in the docket, ever since Lil Durk was arrested, that relates him to that shooting in Georgia at the gas station. Now, I will say I'm the same person that continues to remind us all, when trial starts, we're going to see a lot of new stuff, a lot of new evidence, things we haven't heard before, things that never went to the docket. Who the hell plays poker and shows their full hand? That's just not how it goes. It's no different than them trying to get their hands on the damn witnesses early on. And there's laws even to protect that. When we get, just like Diddy, how much new shit did we hear when the Diddy trial started? Like, what? It's going to be no different. But to be fair, I don't even I just remember songs. I don't remember anything evidence-wise that we've seen from the docket that really correlates the two. But let's continue. Evidence related to the OTF structure and defendant bank's control over OTF. We don't need that. We already know that. Text thread including a message. I got them hunting you up. Okay. The government claims that this nearly unintelligible threat is evidence that Mr. Banks has control over other people who are willing to act on his behalf, even though there is no evidence that threat was ever acted upon by Mr. Banks or any other person over whom he allegedly exercised control. That's very interesting right there, too, because that was the same piece of evidence, I believe, that OTF Didi was trying to use to sever himself from the overall group of defendants, which is not snitching, which sometimes could be smart. Shake it up for the government. It seems every time I hear about a severance case, the government always seems to want to keep everybody together. So I think that there's, from a defense standpoint, a lot of different tactical plays when you can sever from each other, mix it up, divide up, make you try me separately, attack me separately, show your hand over here, etc., etc., etc. Just sever from each other, right? But that thread is a piece of evidence. Now, when we forget the OTF DD piece, when we look at Lil Durk, if I have a text message like that, if I'm the government and I say, look, he says, I have them hunting you up. The wording of that shows that he is some type of authority. He's a leader. He's a shot caller. For my defense side, I'm just going to say, I was just talking shit. I'm talking about people that ain't even going to move a muscle for me. I can say it right now. Let me pick a league. Hey TBL, I got them battle rappers hunting you up. I'm a shot caller over all these battle rappers now. And some people would say, yeah, because he's the owner of RBE. You get the parallel on top of OTF, the top guy, whatever. And other people would say, no, he's just talking shit in the video and nobody moved the muscle. Nothing happened. That threat was never acted upon. Where's the evidence? Nobody was ever hurt from that, from TBL. Do you get it? So I think his lawyers are really still doing a good job here. I ain't gonna lie to you. I see why they're calling this a win on the internet today. All right. The government cannot show that the recipient of the message was ever killed, accosted, or in any way harmed by anyone at behest of Mr. Banks. Moreover, the recipient of the threat is no way affiliated with this case. That's another thing. The person that you're using evidence from somebody that was allegedly threatened, and he has nothing to even do with this case. He's not coming in here to testify. He's not a witness of nothing. It's just Durk. I believe the context of that was Durk was allegedly, was he beefing with him, or was it other? That's when they were saying he was talking to other OTF members that wasn't sliding for Vaughn. I forget why he was threatening somebody allegedly, but the alleged threat has nothing to do with the case. You just got that text message and you're putting contents to it as evidence, and you're using that to bolster Durk being this shot caller. And that's why he was able to get this person shot at in Georgia, and this person allegedly shot behind the King Von killing, and this is what happened in Beverly Hills. Like they're drawing all these dots, but the evidence really connects it all. You see sometimes why the witnesses and the snitches be backbreaking, because when there's light evidence, shallow evidence that the jury is not going to be able to go past reasonable doubt with, then the snitches come in so heavy. It'd be your best friend that's on the stand, or Queso's father and shit. Like, what? You burnt the clothes after you picked them up? Yeah, he's guilty. You get it? All right. Through this message, the government is attempting to bolster its case with impermissible inference that Mr. Banks and his type is the type of person who would threaten someone else. In other words, a person with violent character and propensity for violence. It has no bearing on this case, does not satisfy requirements. You see why I say we got to do this update for this one and separate the two. My logical brain of what I believe Durk is capable of, or what he's about, or what he's not about, versus the court side. I do believe that Durk is violent. I do. Let me shut up for that. All right. This next one that he's going after, we only got 3 pages left. Cool. Text thread is Mr. Banks, in which Mr. Banks told OTF members he was going to pipe it up. We're gonna pipe it up. And here goes the government. You see, he's activating everybody. Here the government cherry picks one comment from a long group text thread allegedly between Mr. Banks and multiple other people discussing a variety of topics. If this piece of evidence were admitted, the defense would invoke Federal Rule of Evidence 106, the rule of completeness. Ooh, I like the completeness. To me, that's no different than if we're going to look at a video and not have all the context. Like let's say Kodak Black's interrogation footage that came out. The internet clips of it was chopped and screwed. If you watch the full video, it may tell a different tale if you take all the context together. And here you have Evidence 106, the rule of completeness. You cherry pick this, we're going to pipe it up out of a long thread where there's all this stuff being discussed, but you took that line out. You might have took it out correctly, or you could have been reaching. Okay. To argue that the rest of the text thread should also be admitted to provide context, where a party introduces all the part of a statement and the adverse party may require the introduction at that time of any other part or any other statement, that in fairness ought to be considered at the same time. Yeah, because at the top of the thread, he probably talking about, yo, what's popping, man? Where the club at tonight? We about to pipe it up there too. All right. And then we get down here, we talk about these niggas we don't like, and somebody just out of slang just said, yo, fucking pipe it up. It's like, see, this is where he's trying to kill a nigga. Up there, I was trying to party. I get it. From a fair standpoint, I would want the same. The next one. Voice memo from unindicted OTF affiliate to PW1. So earlier we were discussing PW2. I'm pretty sure that's going to stand for private witness, right? I assume. The voice memo at issue here is so unreliable that it actually cuts against the government's argument. A thorough review of the voice recording and the text messages surrounding it revealed that the speaker is talking about somebody named Unc, not Mr. Banks, giving money to people and dictating how other people run their business, because it is unclear whether the speaker is referring to Mr. Banks or somebody else named Unc. The voice memo cannot reasonably be viewed as material to disputed issue in the case, cannot pass Rule 404 test, and is no way inextricably intertwined with the facts of this case. And he says name on there. Of all the aliases I've always seen in his motions and on his court docket, we've seen Lil Durk, we've seen his Muslim name, we even seen Blood. I was like, when they call, I never heard that, or a little blood or something, whatever. I never heard nobody call Durk young ass Unk. I never heard that either. But okay. The next one though, the lyrics, the shit that be killing us. The government's position that lyrics are a party omissions by Mr. Banks underscores its own inability to grasp the nature of rap music and more broadly art. The government has multiple cooperating witnesses, ouch, with insider knowledge, cross-country intelligence regarding the murder of SR and cross-country intelligence. That's why people just are gonna keep thinking Brick Baby, B. They're just gonna keep thinking that shit. Cross-country intelligence. The fuck? What you mean? Anyway, the government has multiple cooperating witnesses with insider knowledge, cross-country intelligence regarding the murder of SR and all that led to it, and 20 terabytes, ouch, of phone data to rely on as evidence in this case. If the government cannot prove its case without the use of Mr. Banks' unreliable, fictitious, and imaginative rap lyrics, then the government has bigger problems than the subject of this motion. Shots fired. The government states plainly that to no extent defendants ascribe meaning to defendants' lyrics that differs from the government's interpretation. That is the purpose of the jury trial. But this ignores the federal rule of evidence and the role of court in admitting only evidence that comports with the rule and the notions of justice. The government cannot simply present its own subjective translation of rap lyrics to jurors, throw its hands up and say it's for the jury to decide. The evidence is still subject to the federal rules of evidence. Interesting. Interesting. I mean, in that type of play, your lawyer is going to flip every slang word, every piece of context, every meaning of a lyric. He's going to flip it. Just like the example we saw about the text message earlier piping up that I gave you, right? I'm just talking about going to a party, right? When they have text messages, and I'm not even making this up, of Lil Durk saying, is that door open? Out here, we know, their whole slang, the whole talk of getting back door, close that door, and all that type. We know what all that shit means. But if I rap it and then you put that rap in my trial and you present it to the jury, what do you think the defense is going to do with it? They're going to try to chop and screw it the same way the government is going to try to put its perceived context on the lyrics. So you do need more than that to me. You do need more. You're not just going to convict this guy based on himself snitching on himself in his lyrics. I don't believe that, even if I think that there's some omissions to guilt in your lyrics. But once again, with splitting the court from our perception out here in common sense. Okay. What's the next one? Is there next? Yes. This one, the Chicago murder allegedly related to the retaliation of his brother. All right, Stephen Mack's homicide in Chicago on January 27, 2022 has nothing to do with Mr. Banks and is entirely irrelevant to these proceedings. The government's suggestion that because the alleged murders mention Mr. Banks in a text message 2 weeks after the commission of the crime, that somehow encapsulates Mr. Banks in the Chicago case is misplaced and dangerous. Even more concerning, the government believes that an image posted by an alleged shooter in that case holding money while we saw that Instagram story post. He was playing one of Durk's songs in the background, flashing money, acting like that was a payment, or people were interpreting that as a payment. I ain't even gotta ask when it comes to cash. I tell them y'all cash and blast his ass type shit. Like, oh man. Anyway, holding money while a Lil Durk song plays in the background is highly probative of defendant Banks' identity as the contractor for the hit on TB. To be clear, the victim in the Chicago case was not TB nor anyone affiliated with him. Good trying to separate all these cases where he's not a defendant. The government is still mentioning these things for context and for perspective of who Banks is, who Durk is. But it's that same Diddy thing once again. Stop showing me or talking to me about this hotel footage when we're not here to fight a case about domestic dispute or assault. I think that's the angle there. Nor anyone affiliated with him. And as Mr. Banks is one of the most widely celebrated artists from Chicago, it is a commonplace that someone in Chicago would post on social media with his song in the background. Yeah, that's true. I got shit on my Instagram playing Durk songs. If I was flashing money, does that mean that Durk gave me that money as a payment to do something to somebody? I get the defense. Like, you do need more evidence than that, man. It's like the court of public opinion for what I'm reading, outside of the court. I'm just like, Durk he's just like a lot of these niggas, a lot of self snitching. But court is, you can't convict them on that.